Imagine waking up one morning to news that shook the world. Scientists made a horrifying discovery. Medicine confirmed it. Humanity had suddenly lost the ability to reproduce. No child would ever be born again. No more babies, no more new lives, no future generations waiting to inherit the earth. At first, life would seem strangely unchanged. People would still go to work. Traffic would still clog the streets. Laughter would still echo in playgrounds where the last children played. But the truth would linger like a shadow. Every child alive right now would one day grow old and die. And no one would come after them. Parents would watch their children grow up knowing they'd never have grandchildren. They'd watch the birthdays of the last generation fade one by one, each celebration a somber reminder of what was irreplaceable. Holidays like Christmas or Easter would become eerie affairs, celebrated for the last time. Family get-togethers would turn into bittersweet occasions, everyone aware that they were sharing their final moments together. The future would shrink from decades to years to months. Schools would close slowly, one grade at a time until the hallways emptied and the classrooms stood silent. Kindergarten teachers would become nurses, caring for the last children until their final days. Textbooks would be sealed away, their pages holding the last lessons of a dying age. Kindergartens, nurseries, even entire school districts would vanish. In a few short years, the education industry would cease to exist. The toy companies would be among the first to fall. Board games, dolls, action figures, all would be sold out. As the last kids grew older, their needs changing, so would the economy. Maternity wards would shut down, replaced by hospice wings, cradling the last generation as they took their final breaths. Cradles would be converted into coffins, rocking gently to the rhythm of the last lullabies. The consequences would spread far beyond family life. Governments would collapse, retirement systems would crumble. Without younger workers to support them, entire cities might be abandoned as the elderly outnumbered the young. Commuters would watch the last new families leave town, taking their dreams and laughter with them. The real estate industry would implode, leaving behind ghost neighborhoods. Farmers would tend their fields, knowing that no one would inherit the harvest. Restaurants would serve their final meals, each bite a farewell to flavor. Grocery store shelves would empty as demand dwindled. Skyscrapers would empty as businesses folded. A generation would watch the sunset for the last time, knowing no one else would ever see the dawn. Some would call this freedom, the end of endless consumption, of population crises, of overcrowding. Others would see only doom, a species walking itself into extinction, powerless to stop it. The debate would rage across the globe. Religious leaders would claim divine retribution. Scientists would search for genetic answers. Biologists would race against time to understand why humanity became infertile. Geneticists would propose radical cures, editing DNA in hopes of restoring life. Desperate parents would fund secret labs, offering huge sums to anyone who could give their child a sibling. But there would be no quick fix. There was no plan B. As the peak came closer, some would throw themselves into hedonism. Why delay happiness, they'd say, when the world is ending anyway? Let's eat, drink, and be merry while we still can. Others would seclude themselves, dedicating their lives to preserving knowledge. They'd build vast digital libraries, painstakingly copying ancient texts, determined that if humans vanished, their stories would live on. Monks would copy scriptures, scribes would record oral histories, and archivists would ensure that every byte of data was backed up. And then, the finale, a quiet vision of the future. Imagine standing in a city decades later, its streets empty of children, its playgrounds silent, its schools and hospitals vanished. The buildings would crumble as nature reclaimed what was once alive with human voices. Birds would perch on windowsills where children once looked out. Squirrels would scamper over empty swings. Sunflowers would sprout through cracked sidewalks, a tenacious reminder of life. The last generation would age together, watching sunsets knowing no one else would ever see them. Humanity would not go out with a bang, but with silence, an entire species fading into memory. And the final haunting question would remain, if we were truly the last generation, would we spend our remaining time in despair or in living?